What a great kick.
Oh, up and Chad Townsend plays on. Plays to the whistle. Kicks away for Valentine Holmes. Cronulla's in again.
Wow.
Chad Townsend.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of the Town podcast. My name's Chad Townsend. I'll be your host as usual. And on today's episode, we've got a special guest, a good mate of mine, someone who I'm very happy decided to come on the show and is coming to the show live from France. Jimmy Maloney, mate, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, mate. Honour.
Mate, obviously in France at the moment, and you've been in full lockdown. So, how's the situation going over there?
Yeah, pretty crazy, mate. We've been in lockdown. I think we're on about day 22 or 23 so far, and officially we've got another week to go. But there's meant to be tomorrow at some point. The Prime Minister, I think, is going to make an announcement. Everyone sort of seems to be saying that it'll get extended, at least probably a further 2 weeks. So we're probably looking down the barrel of another 3 weeks on lockdown as well. So the cases are just crazy, we sort of follow the numbers. And I think we looked, from memory, I think when we're about a week into our first lockdown, we had a look and there were about 16,000 cases. And now we're at about 112,000. And we've been on lockdown for that 2 weeks. That's probably gone in 2 weeks. Like, it's, crazy. So, mad, Probably doesn't help that we've got Italy, which is one of the worst, bordering us on one side, and Spain, which is now, I think they've almost gone past Italy, and they're on the other side. So we're just sort of caught in the middle, and it's crazy times.
So, obviously, you and Jess have four kids at home as well. What have you guys been doing to stay busy in isolation?
Mate, it's been all right, actually. Like, as tough as it is at times and that, actually spending a lot of quality time together with the kids, which is, if you find a positive in it, it's really good. You find things to do. We've had the kids outside teaching them to skip, and the things you did when you were kids, and drawing hopscotch, courts on the concrete, and playing games and things like that, So you're always trying to, find something to pass the time and doing it. But, when it's sort of, I've said to a lot of the guys, it's actually is good quality time that you get to spend that, when the kids sort of say, Dad, can you do this with me? Yeah, I can, because I've got nothing else to do, So that side of it's pretty good. But again, it still has its moments where they drive you mental and you just want to get out of the joint.
So, what have you been doing to stay fit? Have you been doing much training at home around the house?
As you probably expect, Chatty, not a whole lot, a little bits and pieces. I've never ever been one who's sort of had motivation to train on my own, which makes life hard. I've come to the beach from our place. I've ran twice there. It's like spot on 4Ks. So I've sort of ran there twice, and I think got on the bike and the push bike and rode to the bakery and back, which is about 10K round trip. So that's 5Ks of pedaling. I get some croissants and some treats, and then head home for another 5K. So that's about it. I'm pretty lucky in the backyard. Jess was going to a gym and that over here. So, of course, they've all shut down. They post workouts and that online. So we've done a few little circuits, and probably lucky that I've sort of got her, because that gives me a bit of motivation. If she's doing something, then I'll just sort of come out and jump in with her and do that. But yeah, I think mentally it's hard because you don't have a return date, so it's sort of trying to stay fit, but you don't know for when. And so, yeah, it's a bit strange.
Before the virus, how was everything in France? Like, you guys had obviously played a few games. How was the move? How did you guys adapt as a family, and how was the start of the season for you guys?
Yeah, look, man, it was really good. Like we loved getting here. Like the change in culture, obviously, big move for the kids. Getting the kids in school. So we're in a little village, and the kids don't go to an international school. They go to a flat out French school. Just in the little village, 100 metres down the road. So they get on their push bikes and ride down. And they've been going good. Ethan's taken to it like a duck to water, and he's probably our best at French, loves it. Like he's going really good. And Kate and Layla, the older two, they've had a few struggles, which is expected, but they're working through them, and it'll be good for them in the end when they sort of get through it. It'll serve them well down the line. And even Jesse, our littlest one, so he goes to 2 days a week. He goes to a French nounou, which is like a home daycare, so they can have like 4 kids at their house, and she speaks all French, no English. So even Jesse goes and hangs with her 2 days a week, and he starts understanding like French. So that's really cool. And then on the footy side of it, we had a good preseason. Enjoyed the change and the challenge of coming over and meeting the boys, and we started all right. We had a weird season because we kicked off and we played round 1 and we didn't play that well and lost, and then we flew for our first away game to England. There was a massive storm, so we got called off. And then we come back, played again. And then round 4, the week after, we were meant to play St. Helens, but it was World Club Challenge Week. So then that was the game that got postponed. So we sort of went week on, week off for a bit and didn't really get into the season. So we played 4 games in total before it all shut down, where some of the other sides have played 7 games had been, but we'd only played 4, and we'd had 3 wins after losing the first one. So it was going all right.
So have they given you guys much indication, I guess, from the Super League that you guys will, potentially get back on the field this year? Because obviously, well, over here at the NRL at the moment, they've obviously, they're doing everything they can to get back on the field. This team, they're trying to get money back into the game, etc. But yeah, what's it look like for you guys? Do you reckon you get back on the field?
Well, we're hoping so. Hopefully, at some point. The hard thing for us is England were, I think at one point, they were about 2 weeks behind us in terms of state rate of infection and things like that. So France sort of is going through everything a little bit before England, and now England's sort of just gone nuts. I think their Prime Minister or something ended up in ICU with the virus and stuff. So their sort of numbers are climbing now. So that makes, obviously, with most of our footy in England, that makes it a little bit harder as well. So as far as we know and what we've been told at the moment, was it wouldn't start before June at the earliest. And the club basically, when that come through, said, you boys are sort of officially on time off, and if all's going well, we'll reconvene and kick off training on the 4th of May. So if we can do that, that's the plan at the moment. And I think the Super League, I think they've got a plan in place if we can get back in June, and another plan if we could get back by July, and both those scenarios we would manage to play all fixtures, but the comp would go to sort of late November.
Yeah, awesome. What's the biggest difference, I guess, so far that you've noticed from the Super League to the NRL?
Look, probably a little bit easier on the body physically, and I find, which a lot of people told me, they said that's not the same week to week intensity. There's sort of stronger sides, and then there's some easier games, So, different style of footy a little bit, and I suppose even through summer that will open up a bit. Obviously it's still sort of coming out of winter now, and you're still getting some colder, wetter games and things like that. But through summer, everyone sort of says it's open flowing football. So I think probably that's the biggest difference I've noticed just in the couple of games. I think, having done such a long period of time in the NRL, I feel like, it is a little bit less taxing on the body and, a little bit easier to get through physically.
And you guys this season have got a really good roster at Catalans, but someone who I've played with previously at the New Zealand Warriors was Sam Tomkins, and I'm interested to find out what you think of Sammy. He's a good lad, isn't he?
He is, mate. He's good. We're gym partners and stuff. We go on pretty well.
There'd be no weights being done in that partnership.
I'll tell you what, he does more than me. So he's good, mate. He's been on fire the first couple of games before it all stopped. I think he got a hat trick in one game and scored. Mate, he's a good footballer. I'm enjoying playing with him over here, and he's a good character to have around as well. He likes a joke and enjoys a beer and that. So it's he's going really good and enjoying it.
Yeah, mate, he's a great lad, Sam. He's someone who I really got on with, really well at the Warriors. And you signed a deal at the Dragons, at Catalans for a few years. But what's next for you? Like, what is this potentially going to be the end of your career? And what does life after football look like for Jimmy Maloney?
Yeah, I think so. I think at the moment I've sort of got 2 years with an extension, like an option for a third, that in the club's favour. But way I'm sort of thinking is, I'll play here, and I think this will be curtains once I finish here. If for some reason I got the 3 years out and the body was going all right, and I could, just go year by year over here on the back of that, then I might do that. But not getting any younger, and at some point it's all got to come to an end. So that's sort of always been the plan. And I think ever since going to Penrith, I've sort of thought that coaching is something that'll really interest me. Probably notice, obviously going as a senior player out there into a really young squad. That a lot of the young boys sort of just looked here for guidance and sort of hung off you and, took in what you said. And then you started feeling, seeing guys make debuts and things like this that you sort of got a real kick out of because you remembered, I remember when this was me, and, and that sort of give you a bit of satisfaction. And I think coaching would sort of do the same thing. You'd get a kick out of, helping kids develop and watching them come through and achieve, what they did. So, I think that's hopefully, fingers crossed, that's what I can get into at some point somewhere.
Yeah, nice. And I guess I'll move on to the next sort of part of what we're going to talk about. And when I was thinking about things to talk about, like I legit could have spoken about a whole range of different things. Obviously, you had a pretty, really decent career, played a lot of rep football, had some big games. But one thing you've never done, and that's sign a contract extension at a club in the NRL. And I want to know, is that because no one can put up with you any longer?
Oh, I don't know, mate. So some boys might say that, but I don't think so. Like, I think if I went back, I think it's more coincidences. There was a couple of instances where I probably was looking to, or it looked like I was going to, but it just sort of didn't pan out that way. But I don't think that's the reason, because I've left everywhere I've sort of gone, I've left on good terms, so it's never been anything too bad. So I feel like if, there would have been some bad boys or some bad blood if you were sort of pushing out like that. But I feel like a lot of people, like, they all throw the Jimmy Maloney's a pest out because it's easy, because you're sort of loud and that, but they all love it as well. They don't. And when it's not there, they miss it. I know that for sure.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, I guess something that I'll never forget from our time together at the Sharks was, obviously the premiership, which I'll touch on in a little bit. But, we used to be roomies. So we roomed together for the 2 years that we played together. Now, for the people out there who might not know this, Jimmy is a massive snorer, like snores his absolute head off. And there'd be times where he'd be asleep on his back and snore, and I'd wake up and I'd just get a pillow and I'd slap him and hit him in the face with it. And you remember that?
Yeah, because I had a few people. I remember if I'd room with someone like for the first time or whatever, and they'd go, "Oh, mate, like I couldn't sleep. You were snoring so much." I go, "Mate, just smack it with a pillow." And I go, I said, "I wouldn't even know," and I just go, like roll over and go. So it's, there's probably plenty of roomies that have got the same sort of story like that.
You've played in some really successful teams over the course of your career, and especially in the NRL. But I want to get your perspective on what you think makes a successful team.
Yeah, right. Well, I think first you need a caliber of players. The right mix of players. When I ever went somewhere, I suppose it varies for different points, but being a halfback, every club I went to, I needed a strong forward pack because, that I needed a platform to be able to play off the back of. So that I think that's important. I think you do need a strong pack to have a successful side. The games, if you can't win the middle of the field and the ruck, then, it makes life a little bit harder. And then I just think on the back of that, and I think the biggest thing where the smart coaches and the smart players realise is there's so many different ways to play football. There's no, because Melbourne are a good side and they play it this way doesn't make it the best way to play. And you've got to identify the best way to play for the group of players you've got. You've got to play to your strengths. You can't try and copy and paste someone else's game that doesn't bring out the strengths of the roster you've got. So I think that's the biggest key to everything, is sort of being able to look at your squad and say, righto, this is what we've got. How do we bring out the best in all this, and what style of play suits us? And then if you do that and everyone buys in and works hard off the back of it, then I feel like that's it. Hard work's obviously got to be the underlying thing behind all the talent and all that. But I feel like if you've got a game plan and style of play that suits your roster and you work hard, then you're on the way.
This might be a hard question to answer, but who, in your opinion, would win a game out of the 2013 Roosters or the 2016 Sharks?
Oh, that is a very hard question there. I don't know. Do I play in both teams, or do I?
Yeah, you play both teams.
All right. That's really hard because I think, Roosters from 13, like we were minor premiers, and I remember we were really good defensively. Like we were really good and things like that. And then, Cronulla in 2016, we didn't finish minor premiers, but we could have and we should have, but we won 15 games straight and we were just sort of cruising. But then obviously, everyone was just sort of, waiting for semis, and we sort of went through a lull at the back there, which was sweet. But yeah, I don't know. It's a real hard question, but I don't want to not answer it because I think that's a bit of a pussy move. So I'll say purely because probably Roosters, because our defence, just from memory, I just remember defensively. Obviously, defence is so important in big games, and I just remember I just remember at the time, you know, when we do video and we'd see things, I remember being in the side and I used to always think about, how would I, if I was playing against us, how would I attack us? And then I used to just think, like, I don't know how when we were on defensively, and I just remember, I think we had like heaps of games where we kept teams scoreless or halves of footy and stuff like that. So that might be the only thing, you know. But it'd be a tough game because it would be a couple of good forward packs going against each other, and it'd be interesting if it ever happened.
Yeah, I like that. I don't like the answer, but whatever. No, it's all good. It's all good.
I suppose it depends who plays better, Jimmy Maloney with the Roosters or Jimmy Maloney with Cronulla.
All right, I guess I'll move on to the next bit of the podcast, and obviously as you know, or as you can understand, a lot of the listeners to this podcast are obviously big Sharks fans and love the Sharks and love listening. But I guess I'll take you back to your time at the Sharks, and I want to, I guess, ask you the reason why you signed with the Sharks in 2016.
Yeah, well, originally, as we were talking about earlier, I said my intention was sort of stay at the Roosters, and a few things sort of went down, and that didn't become possible. And then basically after that, as I said, I'd always a really strong forward pack was always, one of the first things I sort of wanted. And when I sort of looked around at the other options that I had and where would be a good fit, then Cronulla was the place I wanted to be if I had to leave. And we had a lot of senior, really seasoned middles, which you just knew would give you a good platform each time. Then they had this crop of young, exciting outside backs coming through, and I also thought there was probably a bit of a void there in the halves that I thought I could add something to, and help bring it out. And so basically that was it. It was basically sort of ticked all the boxes to say go there.
And you mentioned, I guess, the mix of a youthful back line and then obviously an experienced forward pack. And to me, that was a main contributor to our success. We had young guys, fast guys in the outside backs who just wanted to score tries, who was try scoring machines, and then forwards who just were seniors. Laid an extremely good platform, didn't take a step back. And that, to me, was probably the best mix of a team I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, it was. And I think especially having the experience through the middles was really important, because you could probably think in the time, there were plenty of times, even when we went on that run, where, there were guys in and outside backs who had off days or, made quite a few errors or things like that, or just weren't on. But the consistency you always got from your really experienced middles with Louie and Gal and Hino and all the lads you had going through there, and Wado, and just these senior boys that you just knew you were going to get the same. Like Fafita had a bad year prior, like just the whole pack. It was just a consistency every week. Every week you churned out, well, this is what you get from the middles. And as you said, if we're moving the ball or we're making errors out wide or something, it's not ideal. But, I suppose the bread and butter of your game was solid every week. And, it worked really good, And then you had, with the young, exciting players, they just come through with this no fear, no, the attitude and confidence that they come through and bring. So that, that brings in a good aura and that as well. So, yeah, it was a really good mix.
And yeah, you mentioned the fact that we won 15 games in a row, which is unheard of. Like we didn't lose a game for 4 months straight. Why do you think we kept winning games? Obviously, to me, it was just the sheer confidence we had in our team and our ability that we could win any game at any time. Didn't matter if we fell behind, but we just had that confidence about us.
Yeah, I think that all done. I also think we just went to what we did well. I remember at the start of the year, we went sort of win, loss, and we had that game at Manly where we were just all over the shop. We lost our way. And then, after that, we sort of sat down and said, righto, like we need to find what we do well and what our best style of footy is. And, once we did that and we just churned it out week after week, it clicked. And obviously, as confidence comes and people say, winning becomes a habit, and so does losing. And you get in games and, you might not have been at your best, but you just found ways to win. Someone will come up with something and it just snowballed and the momentum went, and I think throughout, I think we were cruising. I remember trainings and that. Everything was that laid back because everyone was just that happy. It was just, oh, mate, we win. No stress.
Mate.
It makes everything good. It makes life good, Everyone talks about the roller coaster of a footy season when you're not having ups and downs, when you're just cruising on the top, mate, it's so good.
Yeah, I could vouch for that too. And for people out there, I guess a little bit of an insight for us. Like we were cruising that year. We were just high on life, and there'd be times where we would have some really good wins, and our coaching staff we just wouldn't do video review because it was just not required this week. And and then I remember that game against the Bulldogs actually at ANZ Stadium on Monday night. It rained all week before the game, and we didn't even do captain's run. We went in the Leagues Club and passed the ball around a little bit, and then we went out there, and then we won the game on the buzzer. Jimmy kicks the field goal. Jimmy kicks the goal from the sideline. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember we had a few. I remember it got rained out at training, and we didn't do captain's run or whatever. And then the boys we're like, boys, if we win, we can say we'll just do this every week because it works. So it was almost like half of well, let's make sure we win. Then we don't have to trade because we can just go, look, we don't need it.
I had Birdie on the podcast a few days ago, and he spoke about how much he really enjoyed the group we had and how tight we were as mates, and we always hung out at cafes and restaurants and lunch and breakfast and whatever. I guess coming from the Roosters to the Sharks, could you notice a bit of a difference in the two groups, or what did you make of, I guess, the group at the Sharks, throughout 2016?
Yeah, pretty similar. I think, whenever you have successful teams and that, you're tight knit. It's just something that always is the way, because whether it's, players just find something for other players and that because, they're tighter and it means more to them. I don't know, but you'd ask anyone who's, been in a successful team, they always say that, you just become really tight and really good mates. So, I think, as soon as I got down there, we did have a really good crew of boys, and I think, someone like Chris Hynington, he's probably one of the best I've ever seen at bringing people together and bringing, I used to just love being, he was just always fun to be around. He sort of, for an older guy, he was still really tight with all the young boys and that, and he's probably one of the best I've ever seen at just, just bringing people together and everyone having a laugh and doing that. So I was like that. I reckon he was pretty important in all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I'd 100% agree. Hino was one of the best at bringing the boys together. And I think Louie as well always made sure everyone turned up the coffee and made sure everyone had an invite. And, we'd have 10 to 15 players just at coffee. But I guess throughout the season,
Louis made everyone turn up so he didn't have to pay the tour. and then he used to Louis just had a mad kid brain. Like he was 30 or like late 30s, like nearly a pensioner, and mate, he was dead set having a toddler around. Like he was the biggest kiddie brain. Like he loved his mad tricks and he's just stupid little G-ups all the time. Like so yeah, the blokes like that, mate, they are good value.
Yes, 100% about Louis. He is a big kid. But throughout the season, when did it come to your mind that you thought, geez, we could win the comp this year?
Yeah, I thought throughout. I'm trying to think of the exact time. I think probably through that run. When I first got there, and probably through preseason and that, I thought, all right, like there's, it's here, but we've got some work to do. And then, probably as we just started churning out wins after wins, because while they weren't always big games or whatever, it's still a hard thing to do to just consistently win and win and win, And I think that being able to have that consistency in your performances gives you reassurance that you're not going to just, not turn up one day or just miss the mark. So I think that probably give me a bit of confidence. And I'm sure at some point through there, because by the end of that, I was adamant. Like I didn't think we were ever going to lose from there. Like I remember, obviously, at the end of that, we went through this lull and, blokes are freaking out. There's people, sort of saying, oh, mate, they've got, but we were sort of ready to go. And I just thought you don't want to peak too early, because, you don't want to be playing your best footy 6 weeks out from semis, because then you've got to hold that for 10 weeks. The grand final's not for another 10 weeks' time. So I thought that's where our season sort of went. We went on this big run and everything was in place, and we knew what we had to do. And then we knew we were finishing in the top four. We were just sort of settled, and it was almost like we were just in holding pattern, waiting for the semis to come. So we just dropped a few games, just being, just a bit in holding and a bit cruisy, waiting for it all to kick off and get going again. So at some point through that run, that's when I thought. And then by the end of that run, in my head, I was adamant we were going to win.
And to me, you just mentioned it. I vividly remember you saying throughout that period where we lost a few games at the end of the year, boys, don't need to worry. We don't need to be playing our best footy at the moment. We need to be playing our best footy in a month's time when the semis come. But so, the semis roll around, and our first game's against Canberra in Canberra. How was, I guess, your mentality heading into the semi-finals?
Yeah, well, I thought it was fine. I still remember it was so funny, because when we were going through that holding pattern, and we were sort of falling away, and I remember Fleno going, fuck, we want to be playing a home semi, but we couldn't play a home semi, but he was like, no, I want to be going to Sydney. I don't want to be going to Canberra. And I was like, I remember talking to the boys, I was like, who cares if we go to Canberra? Like, it'd be sweet. And it was just funny. Like, we ended up going to Canberra. And then did Gal not play? Was that the game that Gal
didn't play?
Gal just woke out of bed that day or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you're 62, I suppose. All of a sudden, the big games of the year come around and you just decide, no, I can't get out of bed. So that was weird. So he went down, and then we lost Wado. Wado KO'd himself in about 5 minutes in. So I ended up with KP as me back rower there, and but it was just a gritty sort of. I can't even remember too much about the game, to be honest. But I just sort of, remember that and a bit going against us. And I think we were just sort of, from memory, maybe we just sort of were ahead and just holding on and just grinding it out and got there. So, but yeah, it's funny how like so many things, for I suppose where your season had gone so smoothly and everyone was sort of winning, and then you hit your first semi-final and your skipper decides he can't sit out of bed, and then your fill-in captain goes down 5 minutes into it. Like, that's pretty crazy.
To me, that Canberra game was probably one of the best games of our season, in the fact that we faced a lot of adversity, but we still, like you mentioned, throughout the year, we found a way to win, and that was probably the main contributing factor to this team, where we just found a way to win. So we won Canberra, we had a week off, and then we had a really big game against the defending premiers, the Cowboys, at Allianz Stadium in front of a pretty big crowd. Talk me through, I guess, the preparation for this. I vividly, again, I remember you reminding us of, what to expect in these big games. But yeah, talk me through it.
Yeah, well, I think the best thing, and I still think the most important thing through semis, is that week off. Like, it makes such a difference to, to just be able to, you play one big game and then you sort of can get away from it, relax, and, rather than sort of going, get up for a big game. So, I think you have a cruisy week, you're having fun, mood's good through training, and then I think it's just all about just resetting. As I said, physically you're in good nick because you've had the week off, and all of it is, people sort of talk about it being a bad thing, but I don't think it's ever a bad thing, so long as you mentally you know what you're there for and what's coming. And again, I suppose all the things that I said to the boys were just purely things from experience, and the constant things that the big games, the little things work, and then obviously having so much experience around us, if anyone ever sort of drifted off or went on the wrong wavelength, someone would pull them straight back. So I think that was a good thing.
Would you say that Cowboys game was probably one of the most funnest, I guess, complete performances of potentially your career?
I remember I scored a couple of tries, so that doesn't happen very often in big games. But I do remember, like, those. I definitely remember. I don't remember it completely, but I know in different clips on highlights and that it's popped up a few things from that. So I do remember. I had a good game, but it could well have been. But it's just something I always loved. Big games. Like, I got so pumped for them, so excited, and I just think as a player, that's where you wanted to play in. Like, you want to play in big games, so when you get there, you sort of want to make the most of them. You don't want to stuff them up. So I think it was probably up there with one of the good, better ones I played. I'm sure.
I guess, so we beat the Cowboys, we beat the defending premiers, led by, JT, obviously a really experienced team. We're in the grand final, the first time the Sharks been in the grand final for a long time. We've had such a super successful season. So, talk me through a bit about the prep throughout the week. Obviously, it was a massive week for us in terms of, the area, the buzz around the area, but, how did you view it?
Yeah, I think for me at the time, I was pretty lucky because I was still living in Maroubra from when I was at the Roosters and just travelling down. So I think the fact that I was, because everyone kept saying like the Shire's going mad, like everyone's, going crazy. But because I wasn't down there, so I wasn't, I'd sort of come down to training or we'd have a coffee or whatever, go with the boys. But then I was sort of back to Maroubra and that, and with the family. So I probably, walk in the streets and that, I probably didn't encounter all the hype as much as probably a lot of the other boys being down there were. But I still remember I learnt so much from the difference of playing my first grand final in 2011 with the Warriors and then going to 2013 with the Roosters. The build-up and the weeks were polar opposites, and I still reckon I've never learnt so much out of losing a grand final than the Warriors and how the week was. You know, it was such a buzz, and it was so easy to just get caught up in the rigmarole of being in the grand final and things. I think we did it. You know, we had an open training session, and you know, then we were out signing autographs for about an hour or whatever after training. You know, and it was hot and boiling sun, and it just changes what you do. Like, it just breaks up your routine. And then I remember in 2013, they canned all, like, anything we didn't have to do. Obviously, there's a lot of commitments and that are part of the week, but to try and keep it as normal as possible. And I remember as soon as we made it, I said that to, you know, Drewy and Flannel, and I said, mate, we need to have the week, you know, as normal as possible. We need to do it. And, you know, and then on the back of that, you know, I think the secret is, because it's not even grand final week, you're not going to change your performance, or it's not like you're going to do a whole lot in that week on the training field that is going to make any difference to the game. You know, if it's not all in place, then you're stuffed anyway. So, you know, I think it's normally basically used to be till like Thursday where you did you know, you'd have all your sort of things you had to do, and then it finished with the grand final breakfast or lunch or whatever. And then after that, it was basically, that was all put aside, and you had a couple of days to knuckle down and get ready to train. But I don't remember the session that well, our captain's run, but I remember Wado and that. We used to talk to me. He goes, mate, do you remember that our captain's run before the grand final? It was literally the worst training session we've ever done in our life. And I just remember it was windy and we were kicking balls and that at the end for the wingers, and Fecky couldn't get close to him. Like, it was, if he touched it to knock it on, it was a win for Fecky. It was, and then by the end, we just went, oh, well, no, boys, she'll be right tomorrow, and away we went. So, I find like that is so funny.
That is literally what happened. Like, Fano decided that we were going to do our captain's run at ANZ Stadium, which we had a big discussion about, and we went out there and it was extremely windy. And you're right, we were putting bombs up at the end for Fecky, and he just couldn't catch one. And then I remember looking at Louie and Hino, and they were like, "What's going on?" And then we sort of came in together at the end, and they were literally like, the boys were just like, boys, don't even worry. Like, you know, we'll be sweet tomorrow. And then after that, everyone was just relaxed and we just moved on. That was it though, eh?
Yeah, but it was funny. And I sort of forgot about it until Wade's reminded me a couple of times before. I went, oh, wow, that was, yeah. I think that's so funny because so many people stress about, you know, coaches and that go, oh, you know, if you lose the game, it's because you trained bad all week. But yeah, I've never believed that. As I said, you can train like that, that's ass, and win the next day.
So I guess, you know, we do our captain's run. You know, the next day we rock up to the bus at the club. You know, we get on. There's supporters everywhere. You know, when we ran out, the crowd was just something that I've never experienced in my career. A massive crowd. What can you remember, you know, of the time when we ran out, and also, you know, the game?
Yeah, I do remember getting on the bus and we met at the Oval there, and I remember driving out. There were people on the side of the street, and I think that's probably, as I said in the lead up, I was sort of away from it, so I think that was probably the first bit where I sort of went, yeah, right, like, here we go, like, this is awesome. And it was sort of pumping. And I remember, obviously, we were playing Melbourne, so, you know, we run out and the crowd was so heavily in favour of Cronulla. I think, you know, having not won one, you know, a lot of neutral supporters, you know, all jumped on, and it was all all going good. So obviously you run out into a grand final, packed ANZ Stadium. Like there's not many atmospheres like that. So you get this massive buzz and, all right, here we go. And mate, we started good. I still remember I went through and passed to Louie.
Yep.
And he pulled down inches short. And he said to me after he looked at the thing, he goes, I should have just passed back to you because I was still right next to him inside him. And I was like, yeah, you should have. But there was, there was so many things like that. Like even for him not to like he literally stopped this far and not be tempted to, reach out and double movement. And then I still remember, and I laugh all the time, like we used to practice that scrum play with Gal because Gal loved that scrum play. That was like his little baby.
Yeah.
And I used to sit there when I watch it going, as if this is ever going to work. There's no chance. And then sure enough, but the funny thing is, when I've watched the replay back, is because you go to run out the other side and you fall over.
Yeah.
So you go to go out like the other side to like create the extra man after you feed it, and then you fall over. So then it doesn't go. It still opens up, and I was like, "Oh, mate, that's that funny."
Because it's right. We practiced that scrum play all week at training, and it was Gal's little baby, little pet. But in the game, a lot of people have asked me this, and I knew what was happening, but throughout the game, Gal went to the scrum and then didn't tell me that we were doing it. So I fed the ball, and I noticed that our usual, like Mickey wasn't at lock to get up and pass the ball. So I was like, oh, I'll pick up the ball and pass it out there. And then Gal just, reached down and got the ball and then knocked me out of the way and then passed back on the inside to Benny. So that's, but I want to talk.
Good communication.
I want to talk about the last minute, right? So we put the ball over touch. Melbourne have a scrum feed, 10 metres out. We've got a minute to defend for our lives. A highlight of mine is when Vunivalu comes back off the wing and you slap him in the face with the forearm. But that last minute, talk me through the last minute.
Yeah, well, I just remember obviously they were looking for points and they sort of went, moving the ball, zigzagging down the road. And then I remember they coming out to our side and I think Chambers was going back and did he drop him back under or Vunivalu? And I was coming across and I saw it new and I sort of went, but then I missed him and I should have cleaned him up there. And then I was like, fuck, no, so I was in panic. And then we're going into this mad panic of blokes, ball going everywhere. And all in my head, I'm just thinking, oh no, I won't be able to live with myself if they score here and I should have stopped them back here. So I was like, I still remember it being on our side, and then they start moving it back, and you sort of looked over at our edge, and it was like, where the is everyone? We've got no one over there. And then obviously it sort of went, and everyone just hightailed. I think even Big Fat Fafita covered that much distance in that point, going all over the place. And then obviously once they missed that, once they sort of shifted back away from us, and then we got across and covered it, and then they come back again, we were pretty sweet after that. I think that last bit, once they got back to our edge, we were quite calm and it was all quite settled, and then Slick just made the tackle and we were sort of off, and there it is. And to be fair, it probably makes it more, it would have been good to just force an error or something, you know what I mean, and make life a bit easier. But in terms of the hype and such a awesome finish, it actually, I think it adds to it. And I still when I see things, I still don't understand why Mickey and us ran to the ball boys when we won. Everyone was just like, yes, like Joe, and Ricky runs over the ball boys and goes, yeah.
Yeah, they show that. They show that footage quite often, actually. But how were you after we won the game? Like, just straight, just going off.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, pumped and stoked for all the boys and went, especially a lot of first, having been there before and done it, so you know what it's like to have that very first one and just how much it means. So, it was just awesome to go. Like, I feel like it's more just a feeling. Said before, more like content. Where you sort of put so much work and there's so much work that goes into a season, and to finally get there and just get it done, like it's just like there's all this like emotion and like so happy and so ecstatic, but then there's just this feeling of content as well of, mate, we did it, and that was cool. And then I think probably didn't hit me until I seen ET out on the field with Gal. That probably was when I probably realised the extent of it and what it meant to Cronulla, someone who'd played, for Cronulla for all this time, and the emotion that he had about it. Like, I think that's probably the moment when, it sort of sunk into me that, like for a club and this is really big. And yeah, it was cool.
And talk me through some of the celebrations, because for me that was probably the most enjoyable week I've had throughout my whole life as a whole week. To me, I mentioned it with Birdie as well. There was something going on happening. Every single day we were out and about. Like, I remember, and one of my absolute highlights is when you instigated the crowd surfing at Northey. So talk me through the week of celebrations.
Yeah, well, we had. Obviously, it was, so the game finished and we're all, in the sheds and everyone was on the drink there and have a good time. And then, it's always cool. Then you go out. I don't know if, a lot of people know, but a lot of the sides will go out, back out onto the field and have a beer later when when the stadium's empty. And it's like such a, I don't know, like just the contrast of, where you've just had this massive moment in front of 80,000 people or whatever in this packed stadium, and then a couple of hours later or whatever, once you shout or whatever, and you just go back out and you have a chat and on the middle of the pitch in in this empty stadium, like that's pretty cool, and normally blokes get a bit deep and tell everyone how much they love them. It becomes emotional because there's players that obviously are moving on and doing things. So, like anything in footy, you're not always going to be this exact same group of blokes. And, so that's always cool. And then we caught the bus back to the Shire, and, the field was chockers. It was about, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and the fans had been waiting the whole time, just sitting there, and we're doing shoeies up in the grandstand. And I remember it was Capes, because Capes loved the shoeies. So we were all doing shoeies, and there was a picture of me doing the shoey pop up, and the missus goes, the most concerning thing is, whose shoes that? And I said, yeah, that's not even mine.
Oh.
So then we did that, and then we back to League Club, and all the next day, then we're, hanging around the field and that. And I think everything was getting a bit flat, we just sort of needed a change of atmosphere. And we're like, let's go down to Northies. So they called and sorted Northies out. And I remember getting down there, and Damien Keogh said to me, he goes, Jimmy, should we get the trophy down here? And I said, bloody oath, damn right. So I got on the phone to Lyle Gorman, and I said, I'm blind. I said, Lyle, you've got half an hour to have this trophy in Northies, or there's all sorts. And then we're cruising around, and just hear Northies erupt, and Gal's walking through with the trophy above his head, and the joint's just going absolutely bonkers. And he walked in. We obviously had a roped off section on one end. And as he sort of walked down, it was like everyone just like sort of followed, the trophy. And, it went from being like chockers like it was already, but it just like sardines, and they all sort of come to the edge of our sort of roped off section. And then Gal was sitting next to me, and I just remember like 97 and that, when Joey like crowd surfed off the bus and shit like that. And I've always been like, and you see like singers and that crowd surf, I was like, you know what, that would be all time. Like, and I remember sitting there and I was looking at these people and I go, Gal, I'm gonna go crowd surf on him. he goes, go on. So I think like our spot, from us to them was, I don't know, 5 meters or whatever roped off. And there was almost like, it was like a chair onto like a table. And then, so I was like, I'm going to run, I'll go from the 1 foot on the chair, next foot on the table, and then whooshka, I'm going into him. And so that's what I did. I had no shirt. I don't think I had a shirt on. And it's funny, someone actually sent me a photo literally the other day. I was talking to someone and someone goes, I think I was doing another podcast with someone, and he goes, my friend said, yeah, he actually has these photos. So he sent me through, and there's some cracker photos like of me like just floating across like all these dockers and stuff like that. So mate, it was one of, it was all time. And it's one of those things, like you were king of the Shire for a week, weren't you? Like down there, like it was awesome. Everyone was buzzing, so it was cool.
Another highlight for me was, I think it was the Monday, we were about to go out and do a fan day with the trophy, and we're in the sheds, and a lot of the boys hadn't slept. Everyone was obviously on the beers, and this would have been, maybe 11 o'clock in the morning, and our whole squad and staff were in the sheds, and we were just about to go out to do the fan day, and KP was, sitting in the corner, and he's a bit worse for wear. And, Jimmy decides to go to KP, shooey. So KP takes his shoe off, pours his beer into his shoe, and then he starts drinking his beer out of his shoe, sculling it. Then he gets like 3/4 of the way and then spews into his shoe. And then Jimmy's going again, shooey. So KP then starts drinking his spew. And then Flano saw it, and Flano's like, KP, you're not going out there, so made him stay inside the sheds.
I think he got, because he was like, KP was so blind, and so we kept being like, we do a shoey, and like he'd do one, then you'd do one, then you'd do one, and then he got so pissed he didn't even realise that you didn't do one. So he'd be like, shoey, and be like, yeah, and then it'd be like, no, it's your turn. You're on again. We're just gone. So he drank that much, and he was smoking Cubans out the back. And oh, mate,
he was smoking a Cuban, right? And I was sitting next to him, and he's blind again. Has a big puff back, and then just spews up all over my legs.
He was pretty much MOM that. He went very hard. He was very impressive, baby.
Can you remember the time when you and I were sitting in Northies, and obviously Joey made this line absolutely famous, better than Lego, and then you were like, let's recreate it. So I got a video on my phone of us, Gal going, boys, I can't remember what he asked, but then you're going, it's better than Lego.
Oh, mate, you have to send me it. That'd be hilarious.
I'll send you it too, mate. All right, I'll finish up now the podcast with just a few questions from a few people that have sent in. And the first one is from Jeremy Lattimore, who asked, why is your nickname Sterlo?
Let's see. No, that was early on. So when I first got to Parramatta, my first year there, before pre-season started, we went up for a camp up to the Central Coast. So I just got there, and I think we did the first day or something. I think it was Melbourne Cup Day, so it was early November. we're going to start, and it was a drink, you know. Everyone was, so I was sort of new, and I said, what, you know, it's a drink, what's the go? And they boys were like, no, like, tear in, she's on, you know. And so I ended up getting that blind, like making blokes go, get your shirts off, dude, go mad. And then Brett Finch, because I was like, yeah, and he said to someone, he goes, who's this bloke? And they go, oh, I don't know, like he's only new. He goes, carrying on like he's Peter Sterling, played to it. So then the next day, I went down to the thing. I said, Tony Zappia woke me up. He should tell me to wake up because we had to go down and train just do a bit of a beach run. And Zapp's like, wake up, and I'm just there going, beat it, beat it. And then I end up like getting down. We run down the beach, just trying not to fall over. I just absolutely blind, but that's how I got there. And then I rocked up, and Fitchy goes, oh, Sterlo, and he made it stick.
Yeah, I like it. The next question is from Tommy Brett Schneider. What's the best advice for a young half?
For a young half, geez, that's a good look at it. I think for anyone, you know, as a young player, whether a halfback or whatever, I think the first thing is you've got to, you know, just love your footy and enjoy it. And in terms of for a halfback, I think I'd say don't lose, you know, the personal attributes and that you've got. Don't overcomplicate it. I think a lot of kids and a lot of coaches try and, you know, as young kids try and coach them like they're an NRL team and put sides and all these structures how you got to play. And I think a lot of kids lose. You know, there's so many kids that just lose the idea of, you know, if there's you got 3 guys there and they got 2, then you're a decent chance of scoring. So go there. You know, I think everyone gets too caught up in, you know, the basic instincts, and footy's pretty simple. You know, if you've got extra numbers on one side, you know, go there because that's where you're the best chance of scoring. So that'd be my thing. Just work on your skills and play the basics.
Next question is from Dan Frost Official. Who are the top 3 English Super League players in your opinion at the moment?
Top 3. This will be tough because I've only played the 4 games. Look, Semi Tomkins would probably be up there. He's obviously had a career over a long period of time over there. Guys that have... Geez, I don't know. Geez, that makes it hard. We've got Izzy Folau. He'd probably be up there as well now. But these are all blokes in our team. In terms of guys out there.
How is Izzy going?
Mate, he's going good. He's a
well?
freak. So
Yeah,
he's good, mate. He makes it all look easy. So I don't know, actually. To be honest, I still don't know enough about it. Like we do video reviews. They start going, "Oh, watch him." I'm going, "Who's he, mate?" I don't know. Like I don't know anyone. I've never followed it. I never watched it. So,
that's fair enough. All right, last question is from E Bishop 912. Jimmy, who is the biggest pest in the NRL and why?
Current or who was the biggest one when I played?
Yeah, who's the biggest pest you've come across in your career?
Michael Innes. He was, you know, I was with Mickey. Everyone used to obviously say he used to get under everyone's skin, and everyone, like, people would say, "What did he do? What does he do? What does he do?" And I was like, I don't know. Like I've never really had too many run-in with. Obviously, I'm on the edge. He's in the middle and around that. And I said, but I do remember one game we were beating them late in the game, and I was getting up. He tackled me, getting up to play the ball, and I was putting my hand down. He just did the old like step on your hand as you get up, and I was like, "Oh, you bastard!" But yeah, no, I don't. Not too many, mate. There wasn't too many that I used to have, war of words and stuff with plenty, but nothing. No one that I'd sort of put as a complete and out best. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, Jimmy. Well, that's it, mate. Look, I really appreciate you coming on today. Really, really means a lot, and hope you and your family are holding up well in France. And wish you guys, the best for your time over there, and hopefully you guys can get back out on the field soon.
Thanks, buddy. Same to you, mate. Give our love to the family.
Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time on the Talk of the Town. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the podcast as well. Bye.